Photographer of the Year, let's hear it for Dan Shelley, Shellda Photos.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Shellda Podcast. And before we dive in today, for the first time, I've got some really exciting news. Something that I just got off the phone last night with. I signed my second show sponsor. So I am proud to announce, it's kind of fitting to have Mike Bianca here, that Hormesis has signed on for all of the rest of this year and for 2025. So it's like a dream.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, if you were to tell me, 2 or 3 years ago that Hormesis would be like one of your sponsors, I'd be like, you're crazy. So Alex Raggi, thank you so much for trusting me and trusting my brand with your brand. And I'm just so excited to represent Hormesis and also now BFP Gear, your new company that you're sponsored by.
Right.
Yeah, so you see, you knew what's up. Aren't these shirts like so comfortable? Like they're super stretchy shirts.
Very much so. 100%.
I live in these things. Well, anyways, Mike, I have Mike Bianca here of, it's going to be so hard to say this, Mike Bianca of San Diego Dynasty. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. It's been a crazy last 2 weeks for sure.
Talk to me about that process. Like, what was that first, or where did the first phone call happen, or how did that first conversation happen with Dynasty?
Well, it started with a text, right? I got a text from Ryan Greenspan saying, "Hey, Mike, this is Ryan Greenspan. Do you have a moment to chat?" And I stared at it for a moment. I was in the middle of cooking dinner with my family, and I asked him if it would be okay. I remember typing this out, going, "Hey, you mind if it be okay? Give me an hour and a half to finish dinner with my family." It's a big deal for me, right? I have limited time with them, so when I have it, I really cherish it. So, and he said, "Sure, absolutely." So a lot of things go through your head. I knew what it was about, right? So it was. It's one of those things that I immediately started talking to the family about it. Because it was cool. Like, look, that's if I decide to do this, that's going to be more time away. That's going to be more time doing this thing. And so the first big support came from my wife and children, who said, "Yeah, Dad, you have to do that." And it was pretty incredible. After this season with the Canes, I was struggling with a bit of, let's call it imposter syndrome, right? I was blaming myself for the team's poor performance. The mind is everything, man, right? What you think is what you become. So much so that one day after work, I decided to swing by my church. I wear my faith on my sleeve. It's no surprise to anybody, but I swung by my church and just sat in there by myself. And I remember I kept asking and praying, what did I do wrong? What do I need to do better? How can I be better? Talk to me. Why do I suck as a coach? I'm listening. I'm a man. I'm a big boy. I can take it. How can I improve? How can I be the man I need to be to help these other men succeed? I was really doubting my capabilities. And 2 days later, that's when I got the call from Ryan Greenspan. And when Dynasty calls, you answer. So
yeah, that's true. Wow. I just got chills as you were talking about that story. I think, one of the hardest things I think some people do is they have a idea they're excited about, and then to present it to your loved ones and your family, and in hope that they support that, and to hear that they were the ones that encourage you, like, hey, you have to do this. I can't only imagine how that felt in that moment for you. Like, was that just a weight lifted off, or what was that feeling like?
Yes, so very much so a weight, but at the same time, then you wake up the next morning, you realize I have to have that call with my family, my other family. Right. It's no secret that the Hurricanes and I are very, very close. We're all very, very good friends. In that, as a matter of fact, dialing each one of those, because I called each one of them individually, right, afterwards. It's not an easy decision. There's a lot more that goes into these types of decisions than people probably realize. I'm sure it's different for every coach. Like I said, I love my guys. And for the record, I had actually gotten some other offers this off season so far. And
Congratulations.
but the culture of the Canes is one of resourcefulness and grit. So so when Ryan called and we talked, there was a respect from him that I really appreciated. I mean, and I won't go into detail about that, but someday I'll explain that a little bit more. But it was very, very honorable. And what is the saying? Your fate isn't written until you pick up the pen. So I spent the next day calling everyone on the Canes, telling them about the call with Ryan and basically asking for their blessings. And then it happened again, right? They all supported me. That's what's amazing about that organization, right? They're all genuinely my friends. They're all genuinely good people. The reason I think I decided to take the role with Dynasty was multifaceted, but it was made much easier by my family and my other family giving me their support and saying, this is an opportunity you have to take. And so, yeah, it was pretty great, those guys are amazing. And it was tough. It was tough. But once I had everybody's blessing, and there wasn't a single one of them, that call or that text back to Ryan, where I basically said, I'd really like to be part of the Dynasty organization. And that's what kicked it off. It was a lot of fun.
Wow.
We hit the ground running too, man. So
yeah, thank you so much for shedding light into that, because I think that's such a big part of our sport, that in any sport, that I don't think people realize is those really intimate and very challenging conversations that you have to have with your players, your coaching staff, your owners in that matter. And sometimes just sitting there staring at your phone and being like, wow, I have to call this person and tell them some really earth-shattering news. That's one of the hardest things to do. And that's actually one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is I need to get better at having tough conversations and being able to, say no and not have that fear of like, you know what, I'll just call this person tomorrow, and then to sleep on it, and then I'll wait till next week. And then it builds so much crippling anxiety inside. So I really appreciate you giving insight to that.
Yeah. They say the best time to jump is when you're scared. Right. And exactly. So I certainly understand where you're coming from. And, you get that text from Ryan Greenspan, and I'm not going to sit there and say I'm man enough to admit that, hey, it's a pretty scary thought. Right. And so I appreciate what you're sharing with everybody. That's no easy thing. But yeah, procrastination has killed more things for people than I think a lot of people realize. So
yeah, and that's come up quite a bit in these podcasts so far. I recently sat down with Zizek from Paintball Nerd, and his is going to come out, Nerd. I think. Yeah, Paintball Nerd. His comes out, I think, after your episode, and he really gives some light into that too. He kind of gives a peek into how Paintball Nerd started and what it was like being at the event. And he was like, what do we do? We have a camera, like, what do we do now? And you just have to start. You have to rip that Band-Aid off and just go through those first really bad videos and those first really bad things until you start to learn and like, okay, I've got something here, and to tweak it and mold it.
Dude, when he did the first voiceover thing, I fell out. I thought, oh my gosh. And to know now that that's how it all started, like he just had a camera and an idea and then went and just did it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Those are the best ideas.
Yeah. No kidding.
Look, I do want to go a little bit deeper into the Dynasty conversations. I know you had to call all of your Hurricanes and break the news to them. Did you also have to did you do the flip side of that yet? Like, have you spoken to the rest of the Dynasty folks individually?
Not all individually. Obviously they're on a different time schedule than most. First of all, Harrison Fry's like, I think he's in Korea somewhere or something. Or maybe he's in Thailand.
Where he is.
So yeah, dude, he's the Harrison Fry adventures are awesome. But I got to know Harrison. He and I had a couple of good chats over in Europe during the Team USA this year. That's really where I got to know Ryan a little bit more. We had a limited matter of fact, that's actually, I had an opportunity to, obviously Ryan and Harrison with Team USA. I hope I'm not blowing sunshine up anyone's bahukas right now. And this is not my intention, but I knew Ryan was intelligent, but to see it on full display in Europe was really fascinating. He's a critical thinker, and I appreciate that more than people know. I also believe that we grow and learn most when we step out of our comfort zone and face adversity, like we were just talking about.
Exactly.
And I had gotten to that point, right, where I needed a shakeup and a new gear, maybe. I am incredibly excited about this opportunity with the Dynasty guys. They have been incredibly welcoming. Honestly, I already feel at home. So the same devotion and work and sacrifice I brought to my previous organization, I'm applying wholeheartedly to the Dragon. To answer your question, I have spoken with Ryan. I've spoken with Yosh. I've spoken with Blake Yarber. I've had those phone conversations. I've spoken with Junior Brown. I have not had a chance to engage everybody, but we've had texts and we've had emails. But yes, that is my plan. I want to get to know the guys, but it's difficult during this off season, right? And getting everybody's, schedule up. So I can't wait to talk to Arturo, but then he's in Mexico, so that might have to use some. And I'm not technologically savvy. Everyone knows that. If you've ever watched the Coaches Show, I'm not. So I'll figure something out. But no, yes, that is my intent. Matter of fact, I was talking to Blake about that last night. I was like, I really want to call everybody and chat and get their thoughts and get everything out, man. I'm blatantly honest, so I can't wait to hear everybody's thoughts and ideas about next season. So
well, I think you just said it yourself, right? We just talked about stepping outside your comfort zone, and what you do with the Coaches Show is totally stepping outside of your comfort zone.
Yes,
and I remember watching, like I was literally 5 feet behind the camera watching the very first show at the NXL event, and then to see like how you and Ryan have progressed. So I would actually challenge you, communicating with your team, whether it's through WhatsApp or other forms of technology. I think that's something that you can tackle easily. It might be scary, but I think that's something you totally could do.
Right. The technology, I have to start embracing this. Like, we already had our first thing. There's this thing where Harrison Fry and I are the only two who use Android. Everybody else uses the other product. And it's been quite a running joke. So, but no, I'm looking forward to that. I really want to leverage a lot of different aspects, especially since we're so spread out. So there are a lot of great ways to leverage technology for a paintball team. And I've already got a couple lined up and talking to them with Yosh and Junior. And so it's going to be exciting opportunity. I'm really excited about the challenge. That's the most exciting thing for me, I think.
Yeah, I like definitely want to touch on. I definitely want to touch on that challenge, but I do want to share a quick story first about technology and Harrison. We were at World Cup, and I do a lot of, obviously I do take a lot of photos for the team, and so I'm around them a lot at events. And in between points, there's time to catch up and whatnot. They're in between matches. And Harris and I were talking about something, and he was like, man, I don't know. I'm not in the Dynasty chat anymore. And it's in the middle of the event. This is like Saturday. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy just like got kicked off the team and no one knows yet. Like, how are you holding it together? And he was like, no, he's like, I'm on an Android. And so like everyone else has, Apple products, and I can't be in the chat. And so there's actually like a new feature that came out where you can kind of cross text each other from it. And so like I pulled out my phone. I was like, no, look, like I'm in a group chat with some other folks too. And he like kind of blew his mind. He was like, wait, I can get back in the group chat. So it was kind of a funny moment where I totally thought he was gone, and then now he's back.
That's hysterical. No, and it's little quips like that I think that makes this journey so exciting, because it's been a week and a half, and there's already been so many funny things that these guys have said that you really get an idea just through text, right? There's no inflection, but you definitely pick up real quick that these guys they're serious about the business that is Dynasty, which is the business of winning. Yeah. But they know how to have fun, and they rib each other viciously. And I love it.
Yeah. I think you're in for a treat. When I first heard the news, I've got a great relationship with Junior. Obviously, he's one of the show sponsors with BFP gear, and he'll send me a text and be like, hey, do you have a picture of so-and-so? And I'm like, oh, you're about to sign this person. And so he can use it for like social media, like to announce it on the Dynasty page. And so I got a text. He was like, hey, do you have a picture of Mike Bianca? I'm like, oh, yes. Like, this is going to be such a good fit. I obviously I've watched, these guys since I was a kid, and I've, had them on my wall since. And so being around them the past 2 seasons, they're just such a, I don't even know what the right word is. They're on a whole different level of how they play the game. There's not a situation where I've seen them not even stress out, just a situation where they don't have composure, right? They could be down 2 or 3 points with 60 seconds to go, and cool, let's go do this. And so to connect it back to you, when I heard you were joining the team, I was like, wow, Mike brings a level of wisdom that they just don't even know that they're going to need yet. It's like something they don't even know they need.
You are so kind. That is very, very kind. It's funny, the idea of that I'm going to bring wisdom to Dynasty. But at the same time, I'm excited about that. I think I'm so excited about is being able to interact with guys who, like you said, are so driven and so intelligent. They've forgotten more about the sport of paintball than many people have even learned. So that's very exciting. Plugging my system in and seeing what sticks, what doesn't, right? Where we can create. And we'll probably talk about this later, but I think the biggest thing for me is where can we create efficiencies? Yeah, let's understand where we can create efficiencies, and we can leverage our time to the greatest advantage to put us back where we need to be. My job is to get those guys already know how to win. My job is to help them stay focused on the things that get you to wins. And that's where we're at. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm just so excited to see it. And it's literally lining up to be like a perfect story for sports, right? Like everyone is written off the dragon. They got decimated. Everyone's leaving. Like this is the end. And then here they are. They're like, we love it. I've heard from the Dynasty folks is like, this is exactly where we want people to think we are.
Yes. And that's one of the other things that really drove my decision. I love that idea. I love that. The dragon's not dead. What a ridiculous, to me, it's like, oh, it's over, this, that. And then I remember people saying that before I even got the call. And I'm like, guys, they've been here how many times, right? These guys know how to do this. And every time you've counted them out, they always surprise people. And I guess that underdog thought process, to think of Dynasty as an underdog, is absolutely ludicrous. But that idea of them being the underdog, that drew me to it. It really drew me to it. And I was like, let's go show them. Yeah. Let's show them. And I keep coming back to Blake. Blake and I had a great conversation last night about, hey, we're going to show you. We're not going to tell you. We're just going to show you. So you're gonna
love being around Blake. He's a very family man, and that's exactly what I've seen from you coming from the Hurricanes camp. I think you're going to gel right with him.
He and I seem to be very similarly oriented on many different fronts, and it was a lot of fun getting to know Blake. I can't wait for that relationship to continue as well. So it's so much to do, right? And a lot of time. So I've got to be efficient with it. And I'll tell you who's patient is Yosh, because I've probably asked him about 72 questions in the last 5 minutes. So God bless him, and thank you, Yosh, for being so patient with me. But
and he answers everyone with a smile on his face too.
Oh my gosh, that guy is so articulate and intelligent.
He is.
It was really, really sharp. You can tell he thinks about everything he says.
Yeah,
and he's going to meet you on the level that he thinks you're on. So it's really impressive.
Yeah, it's and we'll talk about. We're going to come back to this later in the episode. Okay. Talk to me about what it's going to be like working with Junior, because I think when the announcement came out, it sounds like you got a lot of the headlines, right? Like, hey, Mike Bianca's coming to Dynasty. But I think a really slept on part of this is you're also going to be coaching with Junior, who he is such an intelligent person. And I see him sitting in the stands for 12 hours a day, baking, just taking notes. And Sal actually broke it down in his episode where there was at some point Dynasty was playing, I think it was NYX last season, and with the help of Junior, they scouted out Pat Kraft, or Junior, and they knew exactly where he was going, what he was going to do, because it was the small details that Junior picks up and focuses on. So what is it going to be like working with him?
Well, okay. So when I first got the phone call, and we agreed that I was going to join one of the first conversations was, well, we really want you to work with Junior. Junior's going to be brought up. Junior was our lead scout. He was incredibly, important to the program. And I was like, yeah, great. And I remember I was on the phone with Matty Marshall. I said, well, I want to be proactive. Matty, you wouldn't happen to have Junior's number, would you?
Oh, wow.
And so he did. And so I reached out to Junior. I said, hey, Junior, this is Mike Bianca. Who got some time to chat. And he and I got on the horn. I think we were on the phone for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Wow. Just, hey, man, isn't this exciting? Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and getting to understand each other's thought process and where he is, where he thinks the direction of the team needs to go. And I think there was a merging of the minds where he's very statistical, right? He's that statistical analysis. And that's where I got my start, is basically in the statistical analysis of games. And so it's very similar. And when we started talking about nuances and tendencies and, analysis and how we're going to do this and how we're going to create this efficiency. Matter of fact, we were on the phone, and one of the first things he said was, he's like, yeah, there's this one portion of the previous systems guide that, all right, I love you, Kevin. It's skinny. There was this one previous thing that some guys struggled with based off this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, it sounds like these guys are visual learners, this, that, and the other. And so we started working through this, how we're going to create that efficiency and how we're going to improve that system. And I am a system process guy. I'm very process oriented. I'm all about, I want there to be a disciplined approach to anything and everything. So he and I, it just clicked. It just clicked. So working with Junior, I mean, come on, it's Junior Brown, right? So you listen, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's one time I was called. Someone said this about me one time. They said, I get the feeling that you are the smartest guy in the room and you don't want anyone to know it. And whereas that was incredibly, as you know, Dan, I don't take compliments well, but when they said that to me, I just kind of smiled. And I remember, and this is what I said back to them. I said, what probably makes me the smartest person in the room is recognizing I'm not the smartest person in the room, and leaning on people who have just as much experience, if not more. And I want to draw on that. I mean, I'm standing next to, Ryan Greenspan. I got Yosh Rowe. I got Blake Yarber. I got, Arturo. I've got Danny Schonauer. I've got Alex Frazier. I've got, Harrison Fry. I've got all these guys that, why wouldn't I was like, what do you think? Why would I not do that? And Junior Brown's one of those guys, right? You sit there and you say, hey, what do you think? And you want to take all that data in, and then you want to come up with the best solution. Problem solving. That's all it is. And if we can all get on the same page and understand how to row in the same direction, it's on, baby. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I pull so much from paintball and I use it in my personal life and my professional life outside of the sport. And it sounds like you're doing the exact same thing, because one of the things that I think you said that a lot of people are going to just brush over is you said, I picked up that this person's a visual learner. And so as a coach and a leader, that allows you now to adapt to their style so they can pick that up a lot quicker.
100%. I'm not going to talk to a Ryan Greenspan the same way I'm going to talk to a Danny Schonauer. I'm not going to talk to, and the reason why that is, right? I think the key to any type of successful coaching endeavor is understanding how your team learns, understands how they process information. And ultimately the goal is, if I'm speaking 9 different languages, right, as we're moving through this, so I have to learn 9 different languages on how certain people learn or listen. So I've got to pick the right medium on how they respond. The goal is ultimately to speak 9 different languages in one language. So, and that sounds complicated, but it's not. And it's something that people need to understand, that there are strengths to every player, right? One thing I learned from Paul Richards, every player on that roster brings something to the team, to every layout, right? We bring everything, externally, internally, whether it's outside the net, inside the net. Every player can bring something, and you got to find it. You find it, you tap into it, and you leverage it. Yeah. And the first way of doing that is understanding how they listen, how they process, and how they think. And once we get on that same page and we understand how each other works, that's the process that I love. It's really exciting for me, so.
Yeah. I think I've seen that a few times from you in the Hurricanes camp, and also from, the Dynasty camp too, is there's a moment for a lot of coaches where it just clicks, and it seems like in the pits, it's really quiet, because you're like, oh, okay. Like, I just picked up on this. And like, you kind of look at each other and like, hey, all right, let's go do this. So it's gonna be cool to see like those moments come for you.
Yeah. Me too. I'm going to be learning just as much.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to be taking in so much. This is such an exciting endeavor for me, because I want to grow as a person too. I want all my team to grow. I want them to be just as the ultimate goal for me is for them to be successful, not just on the field, off the field. And I want that for me too. And I know that sounds selfish, but I want to be a better person. And if these people can help me be a better person, then, that's the symbiotic relationship, right? And so, looking forward to that.
Totally. I think some people would say you're coaching, one of the best teams in the game, right? That's no secret. If you had to go back to the very first time that you coached a paintball team, what would this version of Mike Bianca tell that version of Mike Bianca?
Oh, wow. The first match I ever coached?
Yeah.
Okay. So not professionally, but the first, okay. Yeah. Woo. Wow. Great question. I would probably say, and this is going to sound harsh, don't try to please everyone. You're either here to win or you're here for the experience, right? Run the horses, play the guys who are consistently hitting on all cylinders, or maybe I would try and sound cooler than I used to back then, right? I tried, like, quote Miyamoto Musashi or something. Miyamoto Musashi. Truth is not what you want it to be. It is what it is, and you must bend its power, or live a lie, or something like that. Yeah, that's what I'd say. My younger self would probably get PO'd at me, and my older self for being unhelpful and cryptic.
That's what I'm saying. It's a great piece of advice, because I've seen so many divisional coaches struggle with that exact same thing. Is they want to make sure everyone has playing time and that everyone has a part of it. And sometimes that's not a winning formula.
No. And that comes down to culture, right? And it's been cliched to death, but the name on the front of the jersey is way more important than the name on the back. And once you create that culture where everyone's bought in, hey, it's about all of us. And if some of us can get us to that goal faster than all of us, or, at this event, these people are getting us there. At this event, it's a completely different crew, or it's shifted, whatever. If everyone realizes that the ultimate goal is success, and everyone's willing to do their part, once they buy in and they're supporting the guys who are playing a lot, right? They're the first to meet. Hey, what do you need? What can I get for you? Being that teammate is more important than being, effective to me in a lot of different ways. So I think the key is culture, right? And listen, Dan, when you're in the divisional thing, right, you're not getting anything paid for. It's an expensive sport. So if you're the coach and you're trying to decide who's going to do what when everyone's paying the same amount, right? So that's something that needs to be understood before you even go down that path, before you even get to the first event. So again, recognizing and understanding things before, managing expectations before you even get to the event is going to be key. And that's my big advice for you divisional coaches, right? Understand the role and understand the guardrails before you don't walk into a room you don't know how to walk out of, is what I'm saying. So I've been saying that a lot lately, but
that's great. So I think would you suggest to divisional coaches before their season or events start to almost have a team meeting and be like, hey, what path do we want? Do you want to go down the everyone has playing time, or do you want to go down the path of you put your trust in me and let's try to go win this?
Absolutely. I think that's key. It's a necessary component to any success, any type of plan, right? Everyone has a plan to get hit in the face. And so, yes, I would highly recommend having that, right? That's what I meant by managing expectations, really, is get in there, understand, and listen. In some instances, you're going to have those personalities who aren't comfortable saying their opinion in front of everybody else. So I would have that meeting, and then maybe I'd follow up individually. Hey, here's your chance. It's just you and I right now. What's your real thoughts on this? And I think that's where you'll really start painting. One of the first things I do when I do a clinic, and I apologize, Dan, I have a tendency to go off on these tangents.
Totally okay.
One of the things I do, one of these things I do when I coach clinics is for a team. One of the first questions I'll ask them is like, all right, with a show of hands, no names, you don't have to say a word, but just a show of hands. Is there anyone on this team that when you're on the field with another member of the team, you don't trust them? And there's always 2, maybe 3 out of 10 guys that kind of raise their hand. Okay, that's a problem. We have to squash that now. And then you work through that process throughout the weekend. There's clever ways to do it without letting people know that you are doing it. But yeah, that trust has to be there. If there isn't trust in any sporting team sport, if there isn't a trust, well, you're in trouble, right? So I thought I'd tie that into the fact that, yes, as a coach, divisional coach, you need to be having these conversations, and it doesn't get any easier. Those conversations are difficult, and you need to recognize that you're going to have difficult conversations. You as the coach are going to be just as uncomfortable as those guys who are having to go out and execute your game plan, because you need to be accountable. The greatest tool that a lot of players and coaches, for that matter, have in their tool belt is the mirror. You have to be able to look at yourself and understand, take accountability. That one's on me. My bad. And once you're comfortable doing that, once you're comfortable being accountable, you're going to realize that it's going to get easier. So
yeah, you're spot on. And I think another word that a lot of the paintball community sometimes misses out that gets attached to accountability is to be vulnerable, because you have to be vulnerable to be accountable.
That's right. That's a great point. Great point. I even made that comment the other night. I said, look, I'm going to be real vulnerable, and I'm going to share something with you right now. And this is me trusting you. This is me showing you how much I trust you, because I'm about to be vulnerable. I'm going to open myself up here to where you could really, and luckily the responder was very understanding and pleasant to deal with. So, but yes, that's important, right? Look what I'm showing you. I'm showing you my veins. Show me yours, and then we're going to be fine. So
yeah, vulnerability is such a beautiful thing if the team can do it together. But if you have only one part of it or one person that is vulnerable and no one else matches it, then that's kind of where everything else stops and everything starts to kind of crumble a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. But I'm also, I won't tell you that I'm also not very much, I'm very old school. I'm Generation X, right? The last of the feral generations. But I do believe in, and this is going to sound weird, and I hope my commentary does not come across wrong, but I do believe in masculinity. I do believe in being a man and owning up to mistakes. I believe in owning up to, right? So being vulnerable does not make you less of a man. It makes you more of a man, because I'm able to sit there and say, that's on me. And real men step forward and say, that's on me, and I'm going to fix it, right? And then we get to work on fixing it. We don't sit there and complain and moan and do all these different things. We say, okay, I got to fix that. And then you go do it. So maybe it's the Sicilian in me.
No, I think it's the sport in you, right? Is because I come from a similar background where I played football my whole entire youth and up through, high school and whatnot. And it was just drilled in me to never show emotion, to bury that's weak. And so I've always been bury that kind of stuff. Don't cry, don't show any of it. And when I married Amanda, my wife now, she said, that's one of the best things that you can do for me. Like, I love you more when you're showing that side of you. And it took a lot of self-reflection and a lot of looking in the mirror to be like, wait a minute, this isn't actually me being weak. This is me showing a vulnerable, raw side that will allow me to connect more with my partner. And so I had to break that mentality, and it took a while.
No. Yeah. What's the difference between the coward and the hero? Nothing. The hero acts.
Yeah,
they're both scared, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm getting at, right? And I think that's what you're getting at. And my wife, my better half, she's about that as well. She's helped me realize that. So I'm glad you brought this up, because in the pit, when I'm making decisions as a coach, I do remove emotion. You have to, right? In that moment, I have to remove emotion. I have to go off data, right? Because one of the most difficult things as a coach, especially when I've coached so many of my friends over the years, right, who've spent money and time and energy to be there, away from their families, to be in these. But my goal, why I am there, why they have me there, is to win. And so I have to make that decision in that moment. Now it's after the event. It's when we get back to the house. It's when we get back to where all that comes rushing back to coach. He's like, yeah, man, that was a tough one. That one hurt.
Yeah.
And I have to deal with that. Right. But I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but something you said just made me think about, yeah, I have to be emotionless in the moment. I have to make this command decisions, but I have to bake it. If I based it off emotion, now there's a difference between basing it off emotion and instinct. Instinct's different, right? That's not emotional. Instinct is that natural capability or ability to recognize a situation. Hey, my gut's telling me that this is the right call, right? So, and it's based off years of experience, right? That road mileage.
Totally.
But the emotional aspect's got to be removed. But it always gets me afterwards. It always gets me afterwards when I'm in the room by myself going, my poor friend, that
reflection time
probably hates me.
Back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. One of the, I know you're a big quote person, and I really want to dive into that, but one of the forms of mastery that I've seen over the years, just from watching other people and from doing some readings of my own, is one of the forms of mastery is to become a teacher, right? And so to give that knowledge back to somebody. And it seems like you're starting to really embrace that and step into that role. One, doing the coaches clinic with Ryan, coaching other people, and then doing the coaches show. Can you talk about that? Like, has that hit you yet, that you are now becoming the Yoda, essentially the teacher, and giving back to other people?
Great analogy, because as a child who saw Star Wars in the theatrical release in '77, I greatly appreciate the Star Wars reference. I am
you are
a geek and nerd at heart. I love that stuff. I geek out with my kids a lot, so it's a good time. That's another great question, Shellda. That's a fire question, man. Let's see if I can return it with some fire.
Okay.
I think it was Einstein who said, only those who devote themselves with all their strength and soul can be a true master. And for this, what was the rest of it? And for this reason, mastery demands all of a person, right?
Wow.
So I wouldn't say I have mastered anything other than becoming well-versed in effective challenge. We'll call it effective challenge, or effective questioning, or even in its most basic form, right? Problem solving. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be right. I was talking to a young player coach the other night, actually. You don't tell the artist how to paint. You let them paint, and you figure out where to put the art for the people to see. That's my role, right? Especially coming into this dynasty equation. Look, I'm not the smartest man in the room. We've established that. And recognizing that I'm not is where I think leads to the strengths. What did Seneca say? He said, wisdom teaches us to do as well as talk, right? Make our words and actions of color.
Yeah.
In other words, wisdom is a tool to be wielded to create good thought, good speech, good action, right? So I'm just getting strange, my bad. But anyway, there are smarter people in this world, and it is just easier to use their words. So that's why I do that. To answer your question, what is it like to be in that role? How does it feel to be in that role? I ask myself, how did I get here? How did I end up here? Right. And ultimately, I don't really think about it much. I don't think I've mastered anything. But I do feel, to me, my wife put it in she says it's a calling. And I believe God puts people in your life for a reason, right? This person is in front of me for this very specific moment. And so if I can help, that's how I look at it. If I can help, I want to help. And I think that would be the answer. The answer is I've mastered nothing, but I certainly do love helping people. I don't know if that makes sense or not. But.
It totally does. There's some type of intangible feeling you get when you help somebody. There's no money doesn't come in your pocket. There's no, something that you get on social media. There's just some type of feeling inside that you're like, wow, that felt really good to do that for somebody. And then you end up wanting to do more of that.
Right. It's addictive.
Yeah.
Right. To me, it's addictive, and feeling good's addictive. That's
totally. I mean, that's
crazy
why
concept.
That's why we do the things that we enjoy to do. That's why people eat cookies or whatever, because it feels good,
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Cookies are bad for you.
Some of them are.
Some of, yeah.
Where does the love from quotes come from? Because like every time I've interacted with you, whether it's on a personal conversation or listening to you on the coach's show, or even in the pits of your team, you're always dropping these quotes, and they're just like, they just hit so hard. So like, where does that come from?
Thank you. I love to read, and I think more people need to be reading, right? These things are terrible.
Yeah.
Right. But because you have so much knowledge at your fingertips, it still strikes me as how some people are not smarter. That sounded terrible. Okay. I love books. And again, like I said earlier, I just feel like there are smarter people in this world who walked this earth long before I ever got here. And why wouldn't we want to tap into that knowledge? There's so much knowledge. This world's lost so much knowledge, right? When, the Library of Alexandria burned down, we lost so much. To me, it's one of those things that why wouldn't I want to use someone who's, I mean, it's the keys to the kingdom, man. They've already experienced this. They've already, and they saw success this way. Why wouldn't I tap into that? And so I'm not a guy who can there's been a couple of times I feel like I was like, ooh, hey, I said that pretty well. But most of the time I think, why don't we let these great minds do the work for us? And so I like to use quotes because there are smarter men than me that I feel like, I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room, so I'm going to use this guy who's smart. And I guess that's where it comes down. That and the love of reading. I love history. I devour books.
Yeah.
And I love how people think, right? I have a degree in communications and a minor in psychology. So I really enjoy the mind aspect, right? I believe this is the weapon. I've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
Right. This is the fuel. This is the weapon.
You want to talk about a perfect match for a coach to have a communication degree with psychology. Like that just goes hand in hand with each other.
It has served me well throughout my career, even in my real job. So, that's kind of a funny story too. But where I ended up and where I started and where I ended up, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Sounds like it. I want to keep going on the quote piece. In preparation for the show, I actually found a quote that I enjoy, and I would love to show it to you and have you break down what your thoughts of it are.
Perfect.
So this quote is, better than 1,000 days of diligent study is one day with a great teacher, from a Japanese proverb.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that weathered face. This reminds me of a quote by Bruce Lee. I do not fear the man who knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. So to me, and the thing about that great teacher, what they're saying is here, he's already done the work. This Japanese proverb is basically saying exactly what I just told you. This great teacher's done the work. Instead of spending all that time trying to apply my own self to this, which you should, there is strength in that, there's knowledge in that, but a day with a great teacher, he's done all the work. He's giving you the keys to the kingdom. And basically they're saying your learning curve will do this as opposed to doing this. So I think that's a great, great proverb. It's fantastic. I love Eastern philosophies.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my take on that. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah. I saw that last night. I was like, ooh, I think Mike's he's going to relate with this one.
I'm writing it down, and you're going to email it to me so I don't forget it.
Totally. Yeah. I'll send it to you right after this. And I'll send it to you with your picture attached to it too, because it matched perfectly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I remember that was Vegas. That picture was from Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, thank you for that transition, because that is going to transition me right to the next one.
Right.
I took a picture of you. I'm pretty sure this was in Vegas. You can correct me if it's not. And there's maybe 4 or 5 times at an event where I take a picture and I literally get chills, or I get goosebumps of like, wow, this is such a powerful moment. And I don't think I really knew you on a personal level, because I think we've obviously chatted quite a bit throughout the year at these events. But when I saw this, it hit differently. And can you explain what this feeling was? And for the folks that are just listening, like, jump over YouTube and check out this picture. It's Mike during the finals, during the national anthem, looking down the line at his team.
Yeah. There's a lot going on there. I could probably speak for quite some time about what was going on here. So, 2 things are happening there. 3 great emotions are happening right there. First of all, it's the national anthem, which always gives me chills. I love this country. My family has served this country, and given a lot for this country. So the national anthem, that's one. So there's that emotion, but there was such a pride in my boys at that moment that I couldn't help. I wanted to take a picture, and I wanted to remember that moment. I wanted to look at I wanted to see every line, every emotion on every member of my team and staff's face. And I wanted to remember it because I didn't know if we'd ever have a moment like that again. And so there's a tremendous pride and swelling of, you guys have worked so hard to get here. No matter what happens, I am so proud of each and every one of you. And I want to remember this moment as long as I can. And that's what was going through. So there was the national anthem, there was the pride in the guys. And then there was the third part, which was, I have to be better for them. I have to be my best in this match. We're about to play Dynasty. I have to be my best. And, got to be up for it. Here we go, boys. Let's strap in and let's go. And I remember thinking, I got this.
Wow.
And I didn't. But hey, you have to have that confidence, right? You have to have that confidence. Yeah. We'd scouted Dynasty, felt real confident in and it looked like we had them pegged, and my approach was working. And but then, as the Dragon has a tendency to do, they adapted very well, and it is what it is. So, great moment. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with me. When you sent that photo to me, I'll be vulnerable on your show right now, and I will tell you that I got very emotional about that photo because once you sent that to me, I went, oh wow, he captured that. And so thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate the vulnerability. It's for me when I took that photo, because sometimes it happens so fast, right? And like either you capture or you don't. Is the framing correct? Is the exposure correct? Like all of it has to line up. But like in that probably 10 or 15 seconds, I was like, wow, this is like a proud dad just looking at his boys. And that's the feeling I felt, is like you were looking down like, wow, I am so proud of these guys. Like, look at how far we've come. And there was earlier in my professional career, there was an image that really stuck with me. And it was it's like a 2-part image. One, it's of and maybe you know where this comes from. It's of a person, he's got a rope over his shoulder and he's pulling his team forward.
Yes.
And then the bottom picture is he's behind the team, pushing them to the light, right? And like that's exactly what I felt in that moment for you, is like, wow, this is now your time to like go shine.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But it was my guy's time to go shine. And I think, and you nailed it. There was a tremendous amount of pride for me looking at those guys, knowing how hard they had worked, right? Knowing how much, and honestly, there was the pride in the fact that they trusted me like that, right? We've been on this journey and we're here together, right? And I was swelling with pride as well because I knew they trusted me. Yeah. And I knew, and I was just very much, it was a great moment. And thank you for sharing that. That was,
of course. And thank you for breaking it down. It's pictures say 1,000 words, right? And like, you just told us the story behind it of what it meant for you.
I'm having that one blown up, by the way. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to have that one blown up and it's going to go somewhere in this wall here. So
that's one of the biggest honors that anyone can give a photographer. It's one, having my work be printed out and displayed somewhere, especially in someone's home, right? Like that's such a personal space for people. So like to have that means so much. And the other big honor is whenever I see somebody that makes one of my pictures their profile picture, it's like, oh, cool. I made it to be like on your social feed.
I did that when I got, again, I made that my profile picture for a long time because I was like, oh man, it was awesome. So thank you.
Of course. So you've obviously been involved in the sport for a better part of your life at this point. What has the sport taught you personally and professionally that you're using outside of the nets?
Personally, hands down, the sport's taught me perseverance. Don't quit. Quitting wrinkles the soul, right? Winners aren't people who never fail. They're people who never quit. Mm-hmm. Well, wait, hang on. There's I'm about to get clear. I take that back. Maybe I am a quitter. I quit whining and I got to work. I quit being lazy. I quit being selfish, right? I quit being dumb. Well, that last one might be up for debate, but perseverance, 100%. Never give up, right? Goonies never die, never say die. So that kind of thing. Because like you said, I have been doing this a long time, and it's you especially when you've been through so many programs and you've seen so many great players come and go, that who very well could have been great players, but life took them in a different direction for whatever reason. And now they're super successful people. So, right. And of course there's a dichotomy there in what I'm saying, but ultimately perseverance, don't quit, stick with it. Right. If you generally want to win, you know, how many great athletes have we heard say, I just never quit. I always worked harder than the other guy. Right. Yeah. So I think that's what it's taught me. Work hard, don't quit. Keep your eye on the goal, and don't stop till you get there. That's personally. Professionally, I would say it's helped me recognize people's true potential, right? How to read a room, how to listen, how to leverage people's strengths, how to just, again, use their minds, right? Use them to, and everybody don't read too much into that. I don't mean use them. What I mean is, you know, leverage them, acknowledge the fact that they are great at something, and right. So yeah, reading a room and recognizing everybody's true potential, and then trying to help them realize it. So,
wow, that's some masterful pieces of what paintball can teach us to be a better human, you know, in our personal lives and in our 9-to-5 jobs too.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I would love to know, what do you do for your Monday through Friday, 9 to 5? And the reason I ask this is a lot of people, I think, look at, any pro sport, obviously paintball, that some people think that we do this for a living, that we're just coaching, year round, or we're just playing paintball year round, or I'm just doing, media year round. And so I really want to break that cycle and give listeners and give the paintball community a look into what is it actually like on the pro level and what work has to go into it. And so I would love for you to, if you're okay with it, to share what you do.
I am.
Friday
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah. I wish paintball paid the bills, right? Wouldn't that be wonderful? They say if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. No, I'm going to have 3 kids in college next year. So, no, paintball does not pay the bills. I have 4 children. I'm a strategic planner by trade. My actual title is Senior Corporate Strategist. I work for a financial institution, and my role is several hats, actually. I'm essentially change management, right? C-suite relationship management, internal and external communications, with a dash of project management. My career path is a bit eclectic, actually. A lot of people laugh. My first real professional job was in radio. I was a morning drive time radio personality when I got out of college. So
no way.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense with the communication background, but wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's funny. My father jokes all the time. He's like, "Yeah, you're the one we thought wasn't going to make it. How did you go from a DJ to being this, corporate strategist for this Fortune 500 company?" He's like, "Didn't see that one coming. Didn't have it on the bingo card, but my dad's a hoot." But yeah, that's what I do. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would love to actually poke on that for a second. When you hear that or have heard that, does that ever create an internal fire? And you're like, ooh, I want to go prove you wrong and go be that person. Because I've heard that in my life too. It's like, I'm never going to amount to whatever. And it's always been a fire for me.
Yeah. So I am one of 6 children, and I bring up the rear. Second to last, right? And it's hard when 3 of your brothers, 2 are retired colonels from the United States Marine Corps. The other works in the defense industry and the private sector, and they're super successful. And then your 2 sisters have married these incredible human beings who are also in that type of work. And then there's you in radio. The mental midget, so to speak. So my parents weren't wrong. I was a piece of work, right? I was the one that was always getting in fights. I was the problem child. I was the black sheep. And that's not something I'm proud of, because the older I got, the more intelligent my parents became. I started to realize, wow, they were right. Boy, they were right. Boy, they were right. And so, yeah, it did. It sparked that fire, right? It absolutely sparked that fire, but it was the right thing to do, right? My parents, they knew how to reach me, right? So that was the right thing to do. And so, yes, it did motivate me. And yes, when people tell me that I can't do something that I'm interested in doing, absolutely. I remember I like to, okay, thank you. Now it's off to the races. Let's get to work. And
there you go.
So yeah, absolutely. I hear you there, Dan. I get motivated that way. But keep in mind that parental thing was out of love, right? Totally, so I know it sounded dark, but it was very much out of love, and it worked. It worked, To give you another great idea, I'll let you in on another little secret about my father and how he works. When I called my parents to tell them that I had met the woman I was going to marry, right? By the way, I was a late bloomer. I think I was 29, 30 years old. When I called and told them I met the woman, Mom was very excited. My dad was very quiet. I was still in radio, right? I was a radio DJ. And about 2-3 days later, I got a letter in the mail, and the opening line was, "Son, you're going to doom that girl to poverty. If you truly love her, you will break up with her, move home, get a real job, and find a good Italian Catholic woman."
Wow.
So, once again, my dad showing three-dimensional chess, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up going out and getting a much better job and marrying the same girl. I didn't listen to that part, but it was all part of his plan. And by the way, he loves my wife. They are two peas in a pod.
That's awesome.
So my dad, once again, always 3-4 steps ahead of me and knew exactly how to talk to me to get me to act. So
yeah. And now you give that gift to not only, your children, but paintball teams, is you're always having to think, 3 or 4 steps ahead too.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, it came from my dad. It came from my dad. So
that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that story.
Mm-hmm.
All right, super quick. Hey, everybody. I totally forgot to grab Paintball Nerd's question for Mike. And so if you're watching on YouTube, the next segment may look a little different because after the show was over, I had to send Mike the questions and he would send it back to me. So either way, we got the question answered, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So here we go.
Yeah.
So the last part of this episode, which I totally failed on, I will get you this question. I did not get a chance to prepare Zyzek's question for you. Okay, Mike, I have the question from Zyzek, the paintball nerd, and I think this is going to be a good one. So the question is, are we human beings the product of purposeful intelligence or the result of countless cosmetic accidents? Looking forward to how you answer this one.
Great question. Great question. Thomas Aquinas believed that God is the author of all truth. The aim of scientific research is the truth. Therefore, I don't believe there's an incompatibility between the two. So provided we understand Christian doctrine properly and do our science well, we're going to find the truth, right? So yes, I believe that we are the intelligent design of a supreme creator. I think it is becoming increasingly obvious through the perfect engineering we're seeing in nature.
But you get to ask a question to my next guest, which I'll tell you after who the guest is, because it's going to be cool to see how it ties together.
Okay, wonderful. So I have to come up with a question for your next guest, not
without knowing who it is right now. And it can be anything. It could be paintball related. It could be life related. To give you an example, some of the two are, Sal asked his next guest, is cereal a soup or a chowder?
Oh, wow.
It's the exact reaction I've gotten from everybody.
Yeah.
And then Archie Barnes Jr. asked, if you were given $10,000 or $50,000 from a paintball team, what would be the first thing that you did with it? And so the question, it's so wide. You could go whatever path that's calling to you to go.
I'm going to go a little bit different direction with this one. Here would be my question. Can you share an example of a recent decision you made that was particularly difficult and what you learned from it?
I love that.
I like growth, right? I like to see people grow. And so let's see what that gets us.
I love that. And so now I'll share who the next guest is. The next guest is going to be one of your players, Alex Fragi. So it'll be interesting to see how he answers that.
It will be. Yeah, we were trying to figure out if we wanted to get a coach or not. And
it's such a hard decision.
So, well, I hope it wasn't, but if it is, I get it. Because I mean, how do you replace, right? Your dynasty, how do you replace SK, right? All these different things. It's hopefully he didn't go with the lowest common denominator, but we'll see. Alex is great. He's such a big personality, right?
Man,
he and I were walking. We were walking. I think it was in Texas this past year, but we were walking. I just remember this because we were walking together, and he told me a joke, and I turned around and hit him right back with one. I think what did he ask me? I can't remember. It was something. It was like a Confucius joke, and which I thought was funny. And I turned around and I said, well, Confucius say, man who passed gas in church sits in his own pew. And he just had the biggest belly laugh. And right then I remember thinking, man, this is fun. Here I'm throwing dad jokes out with Alex Fragi. This is awesome.
Yeah.
So no, that's going to be great. Yes. Ask him that question. Alex.
Totally.
What was a recent decision you made that was particularly difficult? And what did you learn from it? Oh, I can't wait to hear the answer to that.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Yeah, he's such a good human. He's one of the most genuine people that I've ever met. Like even outside the paintball community, he will literally give you the shirt off of his back if you need it without even asking for it. So I'm excited to see that dynamic between you two.
He sent me this incredible mug.
Right? It's I can't wait to dive in and like ask him about, the magazine, and I've got a lot of really good questions lined up for him. So I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Well, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks. I know you've been getting blown up all week from everybody. So for you to give me some time of your week with the announcement, it means the world to me. Is there any last things or any parting words that you want to give before we wrap up the show?
Sure. First of all, the honor was mine, Dan. So thank you for giving me this opportunity and platform. And I would say that to everyone out there, don't count the dragon out. Just don't count it out. All right. And then to everyone else, be true to yourself. Always be true to yourself. And that's all I have. Love your fellow human, right? Listen to understand. Don't listen to respond. And then we'll go from there.
I love that. Wow. What a fitting way to end this amazing episode. So thank you so much, Mike, again, for being on the show. And for everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the Shellda Podcast. If this is your first time listening, please drop a subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on all the places where you can find us. And we'll catch you next time. See you.